Yeah, nah. Let's talk Australia. Because all the talk around the British and Irish Lions over the last week has been about the British and Irish Lions squad. I mean, natural, it's been named. But what about the team that they're going to be facing? What might Joe Schmidt's squad look like when he names it towards the end of the Super Rugby Pacifica season? And here's a question, which I'm going to answer on this video. If you could take Australian players and swap them into the Lions squad, which ones would you pick? And I think that'll be really quite interesting to have a look at and give an idea of just the strength of the opposition that are waiting for the Lions in Australia. And thank you, Joe Schmidt, again, for making this tour relevant and interesting. Because go back a year or so, and there were lots of people, myself included, going, what's the point? Australia are just going to get hosed. That's not going to be fun to watch. I mean, there would be a slight little bit of entertainment in it, you know, obviously, but not really. You want it to be competitive. You want it to have an edge on it. And Australia have managed to miraculously improve their situation. And I think they can be optimistic, as you will see when I go through this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, which players you would swap. Is my thinking on the Australia squad correct? I haven't watched all of Super Rugby, so you know what? I'm happy to be educated in the comments down below. That's what they're there for. Get stuck in, give the video a thumbs up, hit subscribe, and let's crack on. Starting with loose head prop. And Angus Bell is the main man and an outstanding player. James Slipper backing him up. Kalea or Hodgman will be probably the third loose head prop. I'm guessing it'll be Hodgman. And as for players that I might want to swap into a British and Irish Lions squad, no question, Angus Bell. But that begs the question, who do you swap him in for? And this is one of the things which I will always do. And I want, it's so easy to say that player should be picked, this player should be picked. Quite often, people never tell you, yeah, I'd pick that player, but I'd drop that one. I'm going to do that now. So if I had access to Angus Bell, I would drop P.S. Gooman from the Lions squad. Obviously, this won't happen. It's just fantasy land, but it does give a little bit of an indication about where Australia are at. So I would keep Genge and Porter. I'd have Angus Bell alongside. As it is, they'll be going up head-to-head, and that's quite an interesting matchup, and one area Australia can feel quite positive. As for tight head prop, Alan Alatoa, 7 A's. He has been putting in double A performances, frankly. He's been so good in Super Rugby. Loads of tries and massive, just action-packed. He's having a really good year, which is just as well for Australia, because Taniela Tupou is not. But he's been really honest about it. He's been speaking really honestly, saying he's trying to resurrect his form. He knows he's not playing well. It could cost him his spot against the Lions. He's trying to do what he can. For what it's worth, I think that Joe Schmidt will persist with Taniela Tupou, because when he does turn it on, he's a very, very unique individual. Just the mass of the man is important. Tom Robertson and Zane Nongor will be the potential backups. I've gone for Nongor in this guess of what Schmidt's squad might look like. As for players I might take instead of a Lion, Alan Alatoa is playing that well. I would take him. Which Lion would you swap him for? The tight head prop option, Xander Fagerson, who is injured, but I'm assuming he's going to be fit and well. Tyg Furlong and Will Stewart. Incredibly, and I never thought I would say this, even if go back a year, and would never have said this, Tyg Furlong I would swap out. He's an incredible player, previous Lion, and if Tyg Furlong is playing at the levels we know Tyg Furlong can play, he'd be the first name on the team sheet, but he's not currently. So Alan Alatoa it is. I think I said I think I said too many A's on that one. You get the point. Let's move on to hooker, where Australia have got, I think, probably 4 contenders for 3 spots in the squad. Matt Fessler, Brandon Paenga-Amosa. You've got Billy Pollard and Josh Nasser. I'm thinking Josh Nasser is probably the one that misses out. Those are the 3. Would I take any of them instead of Luke Cowan-Dickey, instead of Dan Sheehan, instead of Ronan Kelleher? No, I wouldn't. They're solid enough players, but I wouldn't take them for another British and Irish Lion. But Australia, you know what? Perceived weakness of theirs is the scrum, and they've got a good couple of props that can do a job. And I'll tell you what they have got as well. Some seriously good locks, and lots of them as well. And Joe Schmidt has said this week that he's open to having players who play abroad, so that opens up the opportunity for people like Richie Arnold in the second row. I mean, he's just one of many. Salakai Alotto's been around the squad, Matt Phillip, Darcy Swain, Angus Blythe, Josh Canham. They've got some good young players coming through. Will Skelton's been around a while, and he's just 150 kilos, hard to resist. And then you've got Frost and Williams, who've been playing some great rugby over the last year or two for Australia. If I was guessing the squad that Joe Schmidt's going to pick, and as I say, I haven't watched all of the Super Rugby, so take that with a pinch of salt, but I'd probably knock out Arnold and Blythe, and I'd probably, based on the ones that are still there, knock out Canham and Phillip, leaving maybe with 5. Some people wouldn't pick Will Skelton, who in Australia colours has not played his best, but a bit like Taniela Tupou, such a unique individual that when he turns it on, he can be game-changing. And for that reason, I would also consider Will Skelton and Frost as well in a British and Irish Lions squad if I had the opportunity to pick these players. Who for, though? The second rows being Ollie Chesham, being Maro Itoje, being Tyg Byrne, James Ryan, and Joe McCarthy. Will Skelton in that kind of big body, just smashing rucks, smashing people, 30 minutes of just unplayable rugby in him, potentially. I would take that instead of Scott Cummings. Just the potential of what Will Skelton can offer. I hope for Australia's sake, he can deliver on that potential. We know what he's done in the past. And Frost, I really, really like him. And this one is much, much more of a coin flip. Flipping a coin, 50-50. It could go either way. I've just nudged out James Ryan for Nick Frost. So there you go. 4 Australians in the front 5 make it into a Lions squad. I will at the end pick a 23-man squad, and we'll see how many of these Australians might make it into an actual test team if you were able to put them together. Something I'm sure I'll return to again when Joe Schmidt actually names his squad. Back row. That starting back row for Australia is right up there with one of the best in world rugby. Bobby V, Rob Valentini, Fraser McReight, Harry Wilson, the skipper, absolutely brilliant. The playing players from overseas means Pete Samu is available, although he's actually signed for the Tars anyway for next season, so he's going to be available. Carlo Tizzano's been great, Liam Wright, Tom Hooper, Seru Uru, Langy Gleeson. There are others that I've missed as well, but that's a good stock of loose forwards. I think too many than Joe Schmidt will need. So Liam Wright, I've nudged out. He might take all 8 of those guys. It might be too much. Maybe Hooper gets nudged out as well, but maybe Samu doesn't make it. But that's pretty handy stocks. As for British and Irish Lions selection, I think if Andy Farrell had the opportunity to pick these players, he would have seen the performances of Pete Samu in the Champions Cup, and he would definitely have been on the radar in the way that Henry Pollock is for his performances in the Champions Cup. And there's no way you can look past that starting 3 as potential players to swap in. But which players of those would I swap in? I'd have to have Fraser McReight. No question. As a fetcher, he is so dangerous, and the Lions are going to have to be wary of him. And I think I'd pick him at the expense of Josh van der Fleer. Of course, this isn't happening. Josh van der Fleer is getting to go on a Lions tour, and maybe he'll get the chance to start a test and prove me wrong, and he'll outplay Fraser McReight. But I do think Fraser McReight is awesome. I love Rob Valentini, one of the best back rowers in the world in the last couple of years. Such a consistently high level of performance that sometimes you sort of forget how good he is because he's always at 8 out of 10. I would take Rob Valentini. I'd probably nudge out Henry Pollock for that. And Harry Wilson. I think I'll take Harry Wilson as well. Real ball-playing number 8 as well as a big carrier. Probably nudge him over Jack Conan. Although now I've said that, I'm actually thinking maybe because Jack Conan is such a good ball carrier, maybe I would have nudged out Ben Earl. No, because you got Rob Valentini who can do that big Boscher job as well. So yeah, there you go. 3 back row players make it into the Lions squad at the expense of some seriously talented players. Conan, Pollock, and Van der Fleer would be nudged out if they were all available. At least in my mind. Let me know what you think. So that's the forwards, and I think that paints a pretty good picture for Australia. Bearing in mind, the Lions have got 4 countries to choose from. What's that? 7 players out of the 19. Is it 19 forwards? No, 21 forwards. 1/3. That's pretty decent. How many of them would get into a test team, though? That's the question, which I'll come to at the end. Let's get on with the backs firstly, though. Scrum halves for Australia. You've got Jake Gordon. He's going to be the main guy. Nick White, the old stager. Tate McDermott. Well, not exactly a spring chicken, but younger. I think Jake Gordon will probably get the starting job. I wouldn't take any of them for the British and Irish Lions. Jake Gordon and Thomas Williams, that might be a 50-50 battle In fact, maybe I should have gone for Jake Gordon over Thomas. But I'm leaving it as it is. Let's move on to fly halves there. One of the problem positions for Australia, maybe the single problem position for Australia. They've got some handy players. Nola Lolasio's done a really good job there. Ben Donaldson, Tom Liner, Tane Edmed, and James O'Connor back on the scene. Hasn't played in a few years, but Joe Schmidt making positive noises about him. Could be a 10, could be a utility back. Might be a number 23 on the bench, potentially with a 6-2 split because James O'Connor's there. I think I would pick Lolosio to start. I know he hasn't been the form 10. Tom Liner's been tearing it up in Super Rugby. International Rugby is a very different thing altogether. Lolosio has been good there. I'd probably persist with him and maybe Donaldson. But tough one because I don't think any of them are good enough to get into a Lions squad. Certainly not Tane Edmed. No, not any of them. So let's move on to I'd keep I'd keep Marcus Smith, Finn Smith, and Finn Russell. Just the two Finns and the two Smiths. Just made my head glitch for a second. I'd keep them all, and I think any one of them would be starting for Australia in a Test series if Joe Schmidt could pick them. So that probably tells a story about where it could unravel for Australia. Midfield, less so. They've got proper talent there. Hunter Paisami, Joseph Suali'i, and Len Ikitau. Absolutely class three right there. And Samu Karevi, not been at his old heights that he was a few years back, but what a potential player there. And then you've got guys like Josh Fluke, like Hamish Stewart, like Fekete as well. Thinking about who Joe Schmidt might pick, I might nudge out Karevi, although you know what he has done in the past and what he can do, but not doing it now. Maybe probably nudge out Fluke as well. Maybe Fekete would be the fourth centre. I don't know, to be perfectly honest. You tell me who's playing really well in the midfield outside of those three, front and centre. But I would take, on a British and Irish Lions tour, I would consider particularly Suali'i and Ikitau. Who would I take him for, though? Suali'i he's in my squad. He's just such a special talent. And who would I swap him for? Probably Elliot Daly. Daly is there. He has the ability, good kicking game, left wing, outside centre, fullback. Suali'i is playing club rugby at fullback. He plays international rugby at 13. I kind of think he does that Daly role. We haven't seen lots of it, whereas Elliot Daly's been on 2 previous Lions tours. So maybe Elliot Daly would take issue with me picking Suali'i over him. That might be unfair, but I've done it. I would consider Ikitau as well, but I want to return to that. Because at first, I want to check out the outside backs. Again, Australia have got lots. They have lots of players, and it's sort of culturally in the rugby in Australia, a lot of players have a multi-skilled, multi-positional, and so you've got a lot of guys that can play 15, can play wing, could slot in at centre, some can step up to 10, and that gives Joe Schmidt flexibility. And Tom Wright has been brilliant at international rugby. Max Jorgensen, Felipe Daungunu. You've got Harry Potter, who's doing a good job since he moved down there. Marika, we know what he can do. Andrew Callaway, Dylan Peach. And then you've got Toole, Jock Campbell, and Darby Lancaster. There you go. Named them all. And there'll be others, because Australia have no shortage of good outside backs. Can they get them the ball to be dangerous? Firstly, which ones is Joe Schmidt going to pick? I suspect O'Toole and Lancaster will go. Jock Campbell's been playing really well, but I'm going to nudge him out as well. That might be the outside backs. Maybe Marika Korombete is not needed either, and it might be those other 6. So I'll stick with that. As for the British and Irish Lions, no, not even Daungunu. The only one I would consider would be Tom Wright, I think. If you were going to put would you put Tom Wright into a Lions squad? I'd have to seriously think about it. I think I would. And I think I put him in for... I think I put Tom Wright in for Mac Hansen, and so therefore I could put Len Ikitau in for Marcus Smith. So Tom Wright in for Mac Hansen, not a like-for-like change positionally. I just think ever such a slightly better player. Tom Wright can play on the wing, but actually you've still got Suali'i who can play on the wing. Blair Kinghorn you can use on the wing. And I would bring Len Ikitau in for Marcus Smith, because having Tom Wright in the squad means that Blair Kinghorn could be your third fly half. I'm kind of regretting some of these selections already. I'm going to go with it. Len Ikitau is in. Tom Wright is in. Mac Hansen and Marcus Smith are out. So isn't that interesting? There's only 3 Australians in the back line that I've swapped in, but 7 forwards. I think if we'd have guessed that beforehand, you probably would have guessed that the number was more even or higher in the backs even. Maybe that tells a story. Australia are not going to be pushovers up front. And if they can get parity, they have got some firepower in the back line. But how much is that firepower? Which Australians would you have in a combined 23-man squad? I've picked a team with all of those players, and I've put Suaalii in at 13. Again, I think I might just be getting on board the Suaalii hype train. And I know he's injured till the end of the Super Rugby season now, so hopefully we see him back for the Lions tour. But I could be getting too far on board the hype train. Maybe just a safe pair of hands like Hugh Jones. In fact, what am I doing? Hugh Jones should be in there, shouldn't he? I've got Hugh Jones on the bench, but I think I might swap those guys over. Other than that, all Lions in the back line and on the bench. 6-2 split. 3 Australians in the forwards. 7. I've put Bobby V at 8 and Harry Wilson on the bench. I could swap those 2 around as well. So I think, what do we learn from that? That Australia have got some very, very good players, but still maybe at the absolute top end, they don't have as many as the Lions, which is no surprise to anyone. But what Australia do have is home soil. What Australia do have is cohesion that the Lions are going to have to, in a very short time horizon, get together and come up with a game plan that will take these boys on. And I am, again, to go back and say well done, Joe Schmidt, I'm just so glad that there is going to be genuine jeopardy on these test matches. There'll be more videos to come on the channel in the weeks and months building up to it. In the meantime, hit subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and I'll see you on the next one.